music and shit like that. Blink-182, all that stuff, Angels. It was huge. I was like primed for that. Like into UFOs and into that music. Dude, he had me lock, stock, and barrel, bro. I pre-ordered the fucking Secret Machines book, bro. Come on. I mean, I was there. So it sucks. Like that was a big letdown for me, but it is what it is. I mean, you sometimes just got to take the blow and then, keep moving and see if you can find something else. But, we'll have to see how everything pans out the rest of the week and look at Congress.
Mic check. Can you fuckers hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah,
also, I guess it is call an optimist, so that's fair. I just choose to place my optimism on things that I think have higher odds of being true. Generally, if I can. But I feel you. They got you. I mean, and that's why they did Tom DeLonge, right? Because, kind of group crush, too. Like, they want to pick likable people that are going to be, effective at telling the story.
I bet you Tom DeLonge's smoking a fucking fat cigar right now.
Well, why doesn't he talk anymore, though, Red? Red, you're pulling a Jack Sarfati right now, by the way.
100. Are you showering? Right? There was straight water dripping.
Nah, he's taking a piss, for sure. 100%.
No, I wasn't taking a piss. I was actually reaching out.
No, dude, no. No, you're good, man. No, you're good. No, I mean, like, why isn't Tom talk, man? It's kind of weird, It's kind of weird. Maybe
Tom
he's
DeLonge,
crazy idiots, though. So.
Also, who's this person? Is that, the Pedro Pascal character? Is that, who are you? Who's it on?
He's a man with no name.
He embodies
flags.
the silent observer, the one who would...
He's tapped out. Hello, how are you?
What's your name?
My name for the longest time is Sketchy Ciabatta, but you can call me whatever, latency tissues or sketchy or ... I mean, people call me whatever.
Oh, there might be that Indian song.
Ellipses. ...
Or Pedro. I mean, I'm not quite as handsome or rich or famous, but I'm working on it.
Oh, don't put yourself down. You'll get there. Drink your milk, take your vitamins. So what do you think about all this news that we're talking about?
Well, you caught me. Honestly, this is the situation that I'm a little inebriated, by the way, but I would feel like I would end up in this situation with my ex-wife a lot, where she would talk a lot and then ask me to follow up.
Sorry, but that's a good time for a break, right? Look, what I think is going on here, and there's a lot of conjecture around this. I think Tom DeLonge said it all by the book that he came out with all the temerity and hubris and, all his trophy picks with Lou Elizondo. What I believe is happening here is I think that the government and government contractors are actually learning how to fly a vehicle that was produced by all these companies together, from Lockheed to JPL to Raytheon, all the others. I mean, there's so many. And I think it's a technology. And I also think that Gary Nolan displays exactly where his head's at with this. On a side trail, you see Jacques Vallée very involved there, and you can look at a picture of him with Anton LaVey through the Satanic Church, right? It's pretty bizarre. And then you look at Hal Puthoff and his connection with Scientology and what Scientology is all about and how insane it is, The fact that they might even own spacecraft is riveting, right? The Miscavige is a very evil person, and was actually trained under L. Ron Hubbard, And I get into that, like, you have Elizabeth Fraser, L. Elizabeth, Elon Musk, L. on Musk, right? And you have to start wondering about and considering these sort of gematria type placed names and programs and systems. I'm not saying that every single time it's that way, but there are some very bizarre anomalies that you see occur. And then where I was going with this is the fact that these psionic programs, I believe, so the Soul Foundation, Gary Nolan, his partner is a very well-known, now he's a very well-known author who wrote a book about what? Who was that through the Seth recordings? Was it Jane Roberts or Jane Rogers Roberts, I think it was. She ended up passing away of breast cancer. Barbara Turner, with all the transmissions she was receiving, passed away from what? Breast cancer. I think that this is a big cover up. I'm not saying that there aren't aliens, but I think the alien contact might be more like what Cliff High was alluding to and talking about. I think there's more references that you could look up with Michio Kaku about this whole thing, where he was drawing a bunch of these references about the Voyager and the Sycamore chip incident, where there was actually this hominid interpretation that supposedly was sent back and beamed back without any sort of prompt from the Voyager, and then they ended up shutting the Voyager down soon after this because they did not prompt this imagery, and supposedly viewing this image actually set off a few of the people to where it actually was changing the way they think, changing their minds, because they were all sort of viewing and seeing something from a sort of parallax, different perspective, almost like a double slit type, changing the probabilities, right? So I'm going to get back to this, but I just wanted to tune in because that guy was kind of maybe shouldn't have been put on blast, but everybody, he wasn't quite ready for it. That's for sure. All right, this because I am curious what these guys have to
News and
say.
stuff, they were still reporting on it, but there was actually quite a few that called out the controversy and the debunk and they didn't confront Elizondo and say that he outright lied. They showed that there was a subgroup of people on social media that debunked it and were not happy with them and were accusing him of such. So they're definitely reporting both sides now.
Yeah, and I think he did that on purpose. Both pictures, the chandelier and this irrigation
Congress and USA, and that was the news for all around the world.
Okay.
Yeah, one of my worries is that it's kind of the potential of my pup. I'm eating soup. He once said, the potential of like a poison pill kind of a thing, right? That's always one of the angles my brain goes to.
That's what it feels like, and that's what Greer says he's been doing, right? And kind of similar with whistleblowers, kind of like, if anyone wants to whistleblow, go.
Not aware, and to catch you back up to speed on this, is that last night news came out, or actually earlier yesterday, news came out about Stephen Greer being a connection as a Mossad agent. And then you have to look at Jack Parsons and his connection, or being offered entry into Egypt and Egyptian intelligence and scientific circles to bring the racketeering knowledge that he had. And then very soon after that, he was killed off. So this whole connection to Egypt and Mossad, and then there being an obvious connection to Lockheed, Raytheon, JPL, those types of things are very real. You got to take a
like going live on TikTok with my yoga classes. In the beginning, it was like one person, no people. So I would just talk to myself and go on and just have fun or whatever. And then at the end, I was like, all right, let me just check on it. And I was like, oh, there's nothing. And then I saw the message from Red. I was like, oh, goddamn, but it's okay. I'll do them every Tuesday. So it won't be too much of a big deal or whatever the case.
So people know what to expect, because I just assumed something was wrong, but if I would have known you were meditating, I would have just,
Oh, yeah, no, it was more of only 10 minutes of it was meditation. The rest of it was like,
Vimana history.
Yeah, history. I actually read from the Yoga Sutras, was really cool, like Samadhi Pod, I think it was like Sutra 16, talking about being able to see the past, present, and future, and things like that. And these are like Patanjali's, I guess you would call it yogic instructions that were given to us a long, long time ago. So it's really cool stuff. But
you know how they say that there was UFOs and nukes in that kind of shit? Do we know roughly, and obviously not like overtly, but they'll allude to it, like, are those holy books like dated in a way where it's like this year, like 4000 BC, or is it kind of like open-ended like the Bible, where you don't really know like what year they're talking about, especially the Old Testament kind of thing?
It's fairly kind of open-ended-ish. It's a little bit different, and yes, I am very familiar. It's that okay. Vedic history it like contradicts what our like Western history says, but then a lot of people at the same time kind of question the way history has been written. So then when you look at like the artifacts that have been left from Vedic culture, you can kind of like date things in a way and see things like you have Sri Lanka. So anyone who's heard of like Sri Lanka, Lanka is very popular of a name because it comes from our story, the Ramayana. It's another like historical text which has Vimanas and all this other shit. Basically, it's hard to like tackle because then once you start talking with these skeptics, they're like, oh, you're gonna tell me that the Earth has been here for this long and this that, and then you start arguing civilizations, you start arguing time, and that's where there's a little bit of
Well, thank you.
I'm not a
All right,
historian.
let's do that. Yeah, on your spaces, I wanted because Shane knows a lot about that stuff too, and we got the Muslim Brotherhood around here lately. I've been wanting that for a minute. And he unblocked me, I think. What?
There's also in
I saw something
India
the other day. But yeah, so then what do you think?
Sorry. Just thank you, Ed. Those crazy like megaliths that are like temples that are carved out of bedrock is like a single thing that are super intricate that you don't hear about very much in the whole crazy ancient megalithic stuff. They don't get mentioned, but they are incredible actually and impossible to date because they're carved out of bedrock.
Megan, you know what's really amazing? There's many of those temples that not only are they carved out of like one single piece and like super crazy intricate structures that like are almost like even with like 3D printers today, the way like the world works today, it'd be like almost impossible. But there's a lot of them you can just hit them with your hand, and each like column and each part of the temple has a different tone. Like they all make different sound. Like it's extremely amazing. A lot of people put off Vedic history, technology, and sciences as bullshit and as woo and things like that. And for me, I don't know. It's a part of my faith. It's a part of my religion. Things like that.
Yeah, harmonic, solfeggio. It all leads into this sort of divine harmonic.
It's really cool
or
stuff.
sacred harmonic
really cool. I know Red,
resonance.
about the nuclear things and with the way they talk about nuclear stuff, just so anyone knows, and they talk like I guess you could talk about these kinds of like what we compare to our weaponry and things like that. They had holy weapons. And these holy weapons were given from the gods, basically, essentially, through prayer, through
tying into the
giving
mana.
yourself to the gods, however you were devotee to the gods, however you want to do it. The word was boon, and that's how it's always been. I know now that's something that we're starting to hear in our circles, but
you're
in
given
my circles,
boons,
religious circles, this word boon has always been
breaks,
there. This is what the gods do. They offer you boons and things
rewards,
like that.
treats.
For your love or whatever the case is different with each god or whatever, but there's a lot to it. There's a lot to our stories, and it's really interesting in talking about the mind. Like the third eye and things like that, and people talk about Shiva releasing this destructive energy from the third eye. It's kind of like there's a lot of how do I say bullshit around that. A lot of Western bullshit because they need to like sell us things here. How do I explain it? But essentially, the third
like
eye
karate
opening,
belt
my
system.
friends, it's just the sun coming up after the night. Like it's nighttime for many of us now. The sun is gonna obliterate the darkness and obliterate this ignorance that's around us. It's essentially what's happening. So a lot of that is mixed in with our stories.
Hey, every day's a miracle.
And because a lot of that is mixed in with our stories and our faith and especially becoming a yogi, right? A lot of us get into the yoga or want to kind of have like vision further or whatever the case is. There's a lot that how do I say? There's a lot that goes into this, my friends. It's a lot to unpack.
It's a lot of nuance and
but it's still
speculation.
super cool stuff, and it's.
And yeah, you want to do those every Tuesday. I'm down. That's what I'm saying. I'm down to like every. If you do it on the schedule, bro, I'm down to like hear. I want to hear like. I like lore, bro. So I love a good lore, bro. This sounds like some fucking fire lore.
It's awesome, dude. Honestly, like, yeah, that's what I'll be doing. Sorry, I don't want to rant on here. Every Tuesday, yeah, I can like go off and like I can read these. I can go off on the top of my head and even just share these really cool Hindu stories.
All right, so yeah, everyone follow Dan. He did a drone documentary. He's working on his drone documentary out there in New Jersey. Also into all this Hindu stuff. But what do you? Okay, now back to here to present day. What do you think happened today with Lou and Matt Ford and Gary Nolan? And by the way, I don't know if you guys saw, we got a new statement from Gary Nolan.
Disinformation campaign. They're bringing other people in.
This real quick.
That tweet that he responded. Yeah, I seen that.
Yeah. What did he say?
And Stephen Greer's all part of it. It's all part of the psyop. It's planned and controlled. Some of them don't even know it.
Like political cartoon type AI image with a bunch of images that I put together. It's really interesting. It's like
they're trying to discredit the whole thing now.
And watching these pieces unfold as like an observer from like, you know, being within it as well or whatever. It's very strange. We all think it's very strange how like Lou presented this, like obviously, you know, fake data or whatever. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like, you know, we talk about psyop or whatever. It feels like this is the experiment almost. It's like, all right, let's see.
It's a cover up.
What happens when we do this to them? Almost, it feels like that's what's going on. And then we're here in these spaces, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like
They
in these
develop
spaces
technology
Twitter,
that we're not included
this is
in.
the where they're checking on the guinea pigs. You know what I mean? And
They
it's
don't
like,
need us to even fly
I
these
think
things.
they're watching our reaction here. They're because the world doesn't care. Like Ocean was saying earlier, is like they're getting articles like, oh, this was said at Congress, blah 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 blah. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of weirdness on here, and I
believe
like
Jane
there's a lot of
Roberts and
different,
Barbara,
like, sects
Barbara
of
Turner
people on here and
got cancer,
clickiness on
breast
here,
cancer,
and we definitely know
from
that
being
there's
downloaded
intel
into
agency
by the
influence
cruder
on here, and it's like
methods that they had at
I
the
don't know. I
time.
feel like all these things are like kind of intersecting, and we're the ones like that are in the middle of this. You know, they put like mice in the
They're
in the
using
maze
very
or
low
whatever. I feel like
frequency
we're the
now
ones
to
in the
control,
maze. And that's why everything's
cymatically
super
control.
confusing, and we can't really tell what's going on. But I feel like that's definitely a huge part of it, and there's a lot of people trusting people on here and trusting the information that's being told to them, and you can see like little armies being made. I don't know. That's my take.
Factions.
Either a maze or a louche
Fractals.
or both. Also, I really liked your rant actually about Hinduism and stuff. And I was just gonna say I've listened to some stuff by Praveen Mohan, who's gone on Danny Jones. Do you have thoughts about him?
Yeah, he's been on Ancient Aliens and stuff a lot, right?
Oh, maybe, I don't know. I watched like a couple of his interviews. I just wasn't sure because he's where I kind of heard about his interview. I think on Danny Jones was talking about the ancient megalithic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
he's awesome. Like he's super cool.
He has a really cool voice.
Yes, yeah, he has. Yeah, he has. He's awesome though. He's really really cool.
cool. Partially, I think the way we beat the Louche Farm or the maze is by talking about cool shit like Vedic text. But Space on Tuesday, I guess this is not the space for that.
And fucking Lou Ford, and you're not gonna take this from me, Megan. No.
What did Gary
We're
Nolan
Lucian
say?
on this thing all night, dude. We're ODing on Lush.
Can we
If
get
this feeds your soul red, go nuts.
Call an optimist. We need an optimist, Brian.
I'm trying.
Also,
I'm
yeah,
positive
I'll
that this
thank
is
God
gonna
for me.
crash and burn.
well, that works too. Mr. Dot 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 dot. And you're in competition for the other like single dot guy at the moment, but you gotta give you guys names. But I'm down for you to share your experience and whatever. It's always like for the most part a safe space to like do that kind of thing because we're all pretty open-minded. We've had experiences ourselves, right? But it's not always like the best time to share an experience. You know what I mean? It's because they can really derail like a whole conversation and make it a whole thing about something completely else, or I mean something different. You know what I mean? So like I don't know. It depends on the story, really. You know what I mean? So.
I got stories.
That's better.
Yeah.
Let Red burn himself out on the Lou thing. He's a dog with a bone. What else?
Well,
do
I
you
want
think
to know
about that?
UFO story, but I want to know what Gary Nolan said.
Oh,
Gary Nolan's
he said,
full of shit.
To UFO intros. UFO intro says, sad to see Gary go, especially. I wonder what caused these departures. And then Gary Nolan underneath it says, overcoming too many intersecting efforts on my part is a principal reason and primary need to focus on my day job in cancer research, but happy to see Avilo go on board, so good science will be represented.
So it has nothing to do with Elizondo.
Bravo
Ford.
Sierra.
It's
You know
just
what
a
that
coincidence
stands
that
for?
they all looked at
Bullshit.
the same time. Is what he's
Right.
It's just gotten
Weird.
too heavy.
Did you read the next
I
part
love
down,
that.
Panda?
Yeah.
It's gotten too heavy and he spread himself
Oh, is there
too
two
thin.
double partners?
No, they're all
Yeah,
doing it
so-
at exactly
I
the
love
same
that Avi
time.
Loeb is kind of looked at as like a respected guy in the field, but doesn't mainstream view Avi Loeb as kind of a kook?
That's what I was about to say. Avi Loeb doing now? That's interesting.
So intros response. This says makes sense. Can we still expect?
They
your
were all
involvement
playing
in ongoing
interference.
UAP efforts, broadly speaking? Really hope so. With the
During the
prey hands. I like the
transition.
prey hands, you know. And then Gary Nolan says, for sure. Period. Just doing my work quietly as usual.
They needed to show some operators how to
the
fly
prey
these
hands, too.
things
I wish I could use them.
manually.
And also the flame emoji as space emojis.
And that's what
the
we've
other
all
night,
been
I saw somebody as space who could
experiencing.
Just use any emoji they wanted. I guess there's some app or some shit you can download. Anyway.
I want to know more.
It's not going to be good for us.
about Avi Loeb. If you go,
Blocking people.
oh, sorry.
All I was saying is I want to know who went through the UAPDF account after these dudes left and was like, I'm just going to unblock everybody. Like,
I say Lester.
Which wife was that? Whose wife was it that went on there and said, you know what, bitches? There, stop complaining. Whose wife?
Hey, so let's rewind. You skipped over something really important here. You said that this person could use any emoji that they wanted to. How is that?
Yeah, I know, right? Apparently you can like download some app. You have to do it on PC, but there's a way you can do it on PC. You can talk to him, but he was kind of a white supremacist, it turns out, or something. I don't know. That part was weird. This was an interesting space. Actually saw a Scientologist in the wild there, too, which I've never seen before. But, yeah.
Where was this?
Yeah, what party were you at, Megan? Where have you been?
I don't know if I should tell you. It's my secret little party.
Thank you for coming home, but goddamn.
I'm just going on adventures around the Twitter sphere, you know.
If you invested the $25,000 level of the Soul package, you do get the option to use any emoji that you want. Big benefit. Big benefit.
Loosh farm, like I said.
That's how it feels.
Hey, Logan, what you were saying about Avi Loeb, like if you go back and look at his history before the Galileo project, like he had.
So I want to interject here. I don't think they're talking about anything that's like too pivotal or important, but I mean, this is all good stuff. It really is. Fix my crazy hair there for a second. I don't think it's possible. Okay, I give up. The thing about this is, the crazy thing about it is that people are going to be hard pressed to believe that they are not having outright spiritual experiences when it is technology. And when you're talking about the Vedas and just Vishnu in specific, it's like when you're talking about this multi-armed person, when you look at the color of their skin, you're talking about a lot of the work that bleeds into Dr. Michael Levin's research that he's talking about, where soon we will be able to have an exotic, sparred and sparked by electromagnetic morphological changes on a very deep intrinsic scale, right? Where he's doing this research with anthrobots and xenobots that I've talked about over and over again if you want to look more into his research. But when you begin to look at this, you could see how this technology is being fully developed all over again. And this is just what we're exposed to out here, right? But they're doing this work out in the open because it's not just, it's partially crowdfunded, right? So they're actually using our money to pull resources in to fund certain projects that have to do with exotic technologies that go down to a level to where it's not just like UFOs and orbs that can go thousands of miles per hour. It's not just like this direct beam interference that can go directly into people's minds to where you can actually hear the voice. And I've heard it many, many, many times, too many times to say, to where I was able to actually realize when you open an airway, when you're opening a doorway, you can actually travel back through, but they've got technology to block you and to isolate you. And even more so, they could use it to give you diseases or break up your cellular structure to the point where there's already global damage done by the inoculations, let's just say. But it's getting into this exotic hybrid morphological aspect where people won't just be able to regenerate themselves back to any age that they want to choose. Big money, right? The ultra wealthy, but they're going to be able to pick out how they want to morphologically shape themselves for specific purposes. And Dr. Michael Levin makes no qualms about talking about this. Like, he's very explicit about the possibilities, and really the possibilities are endless. Let's get back to this because I want to hear some of this stuff.
I feel like a lot more doubt has been cast now on the remote viewing, on now I guess in the later time of psionics, but just I feel like the remote viewing and everything done at SRI and things like that. I feel like now there's a lot more doubt cast, and yeah, trust me, I'm judging Scientology at its highest. Red will tell everyone.
Yeah, and the
how
scary
I feel.
thing is they got a lot of
see these
money,
guys, they
more
had a
money you
visceral
can even
reaction.
imagine.
I have no love for any of these people, but what they were working on, I do feel is absolutely real. But I feel like the whole, like we saw this like strange event happening with Lou, I feel like it's leading a lot of people down holes where like, oh, this shit is all woo, oh, this shit is all fake. So I think all these people are full of shit, but I think it's because they don't want us to realize what they have. They don't want us to
Men
know
who
how to
stare at
operate.
goats.
And, I've been reading a lot of Ingo Swan's books and stuff, and you can listen to him on Art Bell and stuff. He's like, the government doesn't want people to know how to do this. Then you can know what they're doing.
They're
So I don't
leaving
know.
out the
Personally, I feel like you guys can
amplification
discuss whether you
technology
believe in it or not,
that
but
can amplify
I definitely was telling you guys that
people who
in
have
my,
very little ability.
Raj Yoga Sutras, I mean, you can read it. It talks to you just from one random sutra. I can find you about being able to find
Think
past
about what
present
Neuralink is.
within objects or places and things like that. So, like, I don't know. I just feel like there's this doubt that's being intentionally placed. But I'm going to land the plane and go hang out with my baby for a little bit, guys. Talk to you soon.
Adios.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine there would be some ripples felt out across everybody. I mean, even if you're Skywatcher at this point, anybody that releases any kind of video or photo or anything in the next 4 to 5 weeks, dude, I would say you probably better damn well know it's good because, like, everybody's on the warpath right now to throw it in the proverbial wood chipper right now, Everybody's looking to crunch on it,
How about this, dude? As far as Scientology goes, dude, well, Red, actually, I don't know if you were paying attention last night, but we had our friend, he had a Scientology space with the guy, right? How much of that did you hear?
People got me so fucked up. I feel like I know more about Scientology than like people like that guy.
I missed the beginning of that part. What happened?
These disclosure people have got me so fucked up.
I put some big exposés about Scientology up recently down community posts. If you're unfamiliar.
Oh, really? You think so? Yeah, I mean, it didn't seem like he knew very much, did it? But then, he did tell a story about this time where he would visit a planet where it was ruled by these dogs, and they had these, like, lasers on their head, right? And it was kind of like a totalitarian society of, like, these, what were they? They were, like, Cocker Spaniels or something that, like, ruled the planet or something. And this is, like, a real experience he had as part of, like, his, like, Scientology, like, audit, I guess they call it, right? So, I mean, who knows what's going on over there?
You know that Mars story that, like, people love to, like, hype up from SRI? We're like, oh, dude, who is it? Ingo Swan or Joe McMonagle was, like, remote viewing Mars. There was, like, fucking pyramids and shit, dude. But, like, that's basically how they got the Xenu lore and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's like a bunch of people.
Oh, wait a second. You're saying that's not true?
Yeah, right.
I mean, that process of like remote viewing a distant place at a different time and seeing it, that's like basically what auditing was. 14 of the first class remote viewers were Scientologists. Per Homeboy's name, correctly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. I mean, of course, because Ricky was there last night, right? He was asking him, like, so how many women did you lay with throughout all your different lifetimes or whatever? And I don't know. I don't want to answer that thing or whatever. But yeah, it was a lot of lives the guy has had, right? But you don't think any of that stuff that he saw like, in his mind, like being audited, it's like a real, you think? Or think he's kind of like fantasized all that? Or like, what's happening there, you think?
Yo, it's real. If I could convince you it's real and make you give me $1,000.
$100
That's real then.
million.
I know, I get that part, but like, these guys really are like experiencing something, right? Like, there's some kind of like weird thing happening, I imagine. Or
how do you verify that or cross-check that, or you know what I mean?
Everything is under verisimilitude until
The way this dude
proven
told
a
the story was that, like,
priori.
he killed this lady for some tennis shoes, and he found out during an audit, right? And but then like later on, like during his life, he saw that same pair of tennis shoes in San Francisco. And he was like, "No way, those are the same shoes, right?" So that kind of is like a little bit of kind of proof for him, at least, I guess.
What kind of tennis shoes were those? Holy shit!
Yeah, I don't know. I should have asked. Yeah.
The new
So guys, speaking about the Stanford Research Institute and the Scientology links, when the SRI started doing like the Stargate stuff, that's actually what caused Stanford University, the proper university, to sever its connection with SRI, was because of the military.
Yeah, I could see Gary
contracts
Nolan
that
being
SRI
given
was
some
taking
papers
on.
soon.
And the Stanford itself was like, we don't want to be a part of any of that shit.
I think it's
We don't
blown
want to
up
be a part
too
of it.
big
So
now.
ever since then, pretty much like the mid-70s, SRI's never actually had anything to do with Stanford University.
It didn't work out for Jack Parsons with
One of the other
JPL.
things is that Hal Puthoff, when he was on Joe Rogan, was telling a story about one of his friends or colleagues that had hooked up like a polygraph machine to a plant.
Yup.
Or something like that.
There's the first thing you brought up.
Plant Sentience is a great article on
You know who the first person
Jason
to do that was,
Jordan's
right? You know that's
Substack.
L. Ron fucking, and you know the whole, the what's it called, the lie detector thing is auditor. Every time they say lie detector, just think of an auditing machine.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Red. Dude, the only thing I could think of is that famous photograph of fucking L. Ron Hubbard where he's got an audit machine plugged into a tomato. Like, there's a very famous photograph of him.
Yeah, no, he pioneered that. And then some CIA guy did it in 5 years later, who was connected to L. Ron, I think, even.
Yeah, and the scientists who put that together, L. Ron Hubbard, wanted to end his life and commissioned him to create something that would shock him so bad he was going to die.
That experiment.
And the guy
L.
didn't
Ron
do
Hubbard
it.
was the first one to do it, but that whole, he hella whitewashes the whole Scientology thing.
But he
and
did
that
come
whole
out with
interview,
something
right?
that
Like, they were
that
deep in their
released
deepest
huge
Scientology
amplifications,
things,
and
the whole remote viewing
he was
thing.
told that he burned it out.
Even, you know, like,
He tried
Rob
killing
Gandolfini
himself
said
with it.
that he ran Operation Snow White, and actually I kind of think that's absolutely true, because he was one of the only. L. Ron implemented a rule that like no intel people could enter Scientology, but except for him. And then not just that, remember Pat Price, you know, he died under mysterious circumstances, but one of the things he was doing was getting documents from the CIA and giving them to Scientology, which is literally what Snow White was. So that was just like one little division of the whole Snow White op.
Crazy. Yeah, I definitely made the connection between the Scientology stuff when Hal Puthoff was talking on Rogan. It really stood out to me. And I was like, God dang, man, he's just not, he's almost like embellishing and just not talking about it, but I know that's what he means there.
Oh, they're all liars. They believe in a lie.
Exactly.
They become sociopaths.
I gotta finish watching that, dude. I got like halfway through and
They
I was like,
believe in a
I've heard
lie.
these stories,
They make the lie
I cut
true.
it off, dude, but maybe I'll go back and finish it.
It's kind of disappointing. I'm not disappointing, but like underwhelming.
It was boring, Red. It was so boring, like Terrestrial just said. We've heard
Army
most
of
this stuff
narcissists.
before, but from a new lens, it's really interesting. Go back and watch it from the lens of, like, trying to figure out which of the stories that Hal's talking about there are the ones that he told Grush and Elizondo. Like when he tells the company A, company B thing, where he's talking about Lockheed.
All right, we're going to
getting
end this.
UFO tech and
If you
company
want
B
to check
going
this out, you can
bankrupt.
go on
It's
to
almost
X
verbatim
and
the same
be
clip
sure
I have
to
with
look
Lou
up
about
Red
Elizondo
Panda
saying
Koala.
the same story
He's coming
like
out
10
with
years
some really
earlier
good
of company
video
company
evidence
technology.
surrounding
Yeah,
all
yeah,
these
for
subjects
sure.
and more. And
Later
I'll
on
be
in that
posting
interview,
quite a bit
does
up
Hal
from
actually
him on
name
community
Lockheed?
posts
I can't remember.
regularly.
I feel like somebody said